Welcome to the Future of Impact. Today's guest is one of my favorite humans. She is the machine, the engine that keeps the 1 Degree machine going. Our COO and my right hand favorite person is Megan Wellikoff. Very excited to have you here today. I forcibly asked her to join us. This is out of her comfort zone, so I'm very appreciative of you being here and chatting with me for a little bit.
Well, thanks for having me. And this has just been really a great evolution to watch this process and this show to come together. So I'm very excited to be here, even though my insides are a little telling me otherwise, but I'm just really excited for where this show is going to go.
Awesome. Cool. So I would love, obviously I know you well, and I know this piece of the story, but I think for everybody listening, it would be super helpful to kind of understand your journey in this space, in this industry, and kind of with impact in mind, so we can kind of level set the rest of the conversation, just your background.
Sure. Well, I started a career, so to speak. I majored in political science, always very interested in the world and what's going on, kind of segued into like a sales and marketing background somehow. And then was always this focus of wanting to get to nonprofit. So it was kind of like a byway. Went back to school and got my master's in nonprofit administration, ended up working for some community foundation and some nonprofits in development. And then very intentionally moved back to South Florida to start our family and be with our extended family, and got connected to Williams grant writing. And it has actually always been my dream to get in the writing role. And that was very exciting to take that on, and ended up in this awesome company. So
that's great. Yeah, I think it's interesting because in this conversation, we'll jump back and forth between what we refer to as old co, but Williams grant writing, to the evolution of 1 Degree Impact. So clarify just real quick, when you came on board as Williams grant writing, which for those that don't know that are listening, Williams grant writing was the original business that's been around for 10 years. I came on as a consultant for it originally, became a partner in it. And then I ended up acquiring the business from my partners and friends about 2 years ago. And Meg and I have been on a journey with our team to evolve this amazing business that we had acquired in this space into this impact vehicle. So taking the very best of clients, processes, team members, all of that from Williams grant writing, and then launching 1 Degree Impact. I would love to kind of just hear from your perspective what that journey has been like, and kind of like you came in as a grant writer 5 years ago, and then just like what that journey has been like to COO of 1 Degree Impact.
Yeah, no, it's been a really fun ride, and I've really always appreciated the growth trajectory of how can we make all processes more efficient, deliver more for our clients in every step of the way. So it's been really fun to watch Williams evolve into 1 Degree, and starting off as a grant writer, and then I was kind of brought on board as a production, assisting clients and account management. And then we developed this really awesome proprietary technology, our portal, that really is a great tool that we use to keep our clients organized and keep projects organized. And so it's helping the team kind of craft and walk through the process of developing that. So that was really fun. And then an account manager, and it was really fulfilling. And then as you acquired the business and we had some really great conversations, it really just became evident that we could just continue to drive efficiency and hone in on what makes our clients so successful. And that's really what the new phase is all about.
And so when you talk about what makes our clients so successful, I would love to just kind of hear from your perspective what that is. We've worked with hundreds of clients over the past 10 years. And we always, have a keen eye on like what makes some of them exponentially successful versus some who really struggle to be successful in the grant space. So I'd love, from your point of view, what that's been, and then kind of like, what does it look like today with the new way that we're doing things for those who are kind of in this space, either as consultants in the space or nonprofit leaders in the space. I think it'd be helpful just to understand the like pitfalls and the wins.
Yeah, it's a great question, because every industry in the nonprofit sector is unique and has different metrics and different kind of goals and ways to really leap those hurdles. And so it's been great to have such a wide variety of clients to observe kind of trends and things that are going on. What makes an organization successful in terms of grants and innovative? It's really an organization that leads with relationships. And I think the relationship aspect of creating those relationships with institutional funders, as well as their own internal teams, I think their ability to see the big picture and understand how their team doesn't necessarily, whereas nonprofits are notorious for wearing all hats at all times, I think really seeing the unique value of each individual department and team member, and then, or seeing where there's gaps and looking for ways and other resources and other team and other relationships to fill those gaps. So we've been really seeing a lot of success with clients that are focused on the intentional relationship building, intentional sustaining of those relationships, and then also keeping in mind the big vision of the big picture. And so just really connecting those dots in a strategic way.
Have there been organizations that like by specific, like structurally, or kind of that you could say like, these are the organizations that really aren't ready for grants that like, you know, perhaps over the years have entered into our universe, whether through us working with them and then learning that, or that we advise, even if we don't end up working with them directly, versus those that you're like, oh, when they fit this bill, they are just going to crush it in the grant space?
Yes, and so organizations that have, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that question, but really just having all their organizational documents, their ducks in a row, ready to hit the ground running in terms of an organizational budget that makes sense, that's up to date and has been board approved, internal audits, 990s, things along those lines are really just kind of the backbone before you even start getting into the narrative and really assessing the programs and crafting a narrative about the work that's really being done on the ground. I think organizations that are focused on data and metrics that are really tracking outcomes, it's all the foundations are really looking for these days. I mean, it's a quick assessment of how ready you are to pivot, because you want to be able to measure your programs to know that they're being successful. And if they're not successful, then you can make those call outs and make those adjustments. And funders really, that's what they're really looking for. So organizations that are tracking those metrics in addition to just your basic documentation is important.
Awesome. And then we talked about the relationship piece, and I'm curious, you know, as we've evolved the business to be more relationship driven, it was kind of, I would say, the number one thing that clients had asked us to do for the past, 8 years prior to One Degree was like, do you have any secret funders that you know about, or can you do the outreach to the funders for us? Can you touch just on like how we've evolved our processes? Again, I just think it's helpful for anybody listening who's looking for like how to fine tune their grants machine, or like, what are skill sets that they're maybe like missing in their organization as it relates to developing those relationships with funders?
Yeah, I think having some sort of organized, it might sound very basic, some sort of CRM or some sort of organizational tool that you're using internally, and if not, then you're figuring out how to do that. Keeping all of that information in one place so that your development team can be strategic in how they're reaching out and not dropping any balls, like any plates falling on the floor because you haven't reached out to a funder that funded you 5 years ago, and because it just kind of got lost in the shuffle. So I think really staying on top of the plan and understanding the whole vision of how you're building those relationships strategically. Are they wrapped into your communications? Are they following on social? Are there other ways that you're really continuing to build out the relationship aside from just submitting a grant randomly once every 5 years? So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, but that's pretty much the high level of it.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point too, because I know like in everything, right, in life and in business and in, the leaders of these organizations, the same problems, we all face the same stuff, which is like, sometimes we just overcomplicate things so much that we make it way harder on ourselves than we need to. You brought up the point about like the reaching out to the funder that funded you 5 years ago. And I know that that's like one of our team's favorite, like low hanging fruit of just step one, who's funded you over the past, number of years, but like what, along with that, are there other like just super like, we would, kind of the like, oh, I didn't think about that. It's so easy in this kind of realm of relationship building.
Yeah, it also it really goes back to the executive director or your kind of chief outreach person, whoever you designate in your organization that just really enjoys that, whether it's a board member or someone on your development team.
Development director,
really,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just really having that person that's really comfortable picking up the phone and making that call, because I think there's obviously a power imbalance in the institutional funder space where you're just feel like your hand is out, please fund our program, pretty please, and there's not this relationship or sort of balanced, it's just the way the system is set up in this way. But I think a lot of organizations kind of overly complicate that relationship. If they provide their phone number on their website, they want you to call. If they provide you the program officer's contact information, they're open to your feedback. And some of them, if they don't want you to call, they will say that. But if it's on there and there's an opportunity to reach out, I think that's something that's easily overlooked, is that they want to improve their grant making program as much as you want the grant. So they want that feedback in that relationship.
Yeah. How do you it's also about figuring out, you mentioned board members and the development director and stuff like that, but like having our clients and organizational, leaders of these nonprofit organizations, like understand that their connections to these funders may be way closer, 1 degree away is what we're seeking, but like they may be way closer than they realize. And like, maybe like an example or two of like a situation. I can think a couple off the top of my head that we were like, that person, like, how did we not know that you knew that person, as you're doing this, of like, it brings to mind silos to me of kind of just like not stepping back and like looking, but I'd be curious your thoughts on like, where there's sometimes those like, the simplest thing of like that a relationship existed that the client didn't even realize that we helped them kind of like identify.
Yes, I think one of the examples, a client of ours that we've known for a while, but they were never really sharing of their not necessarily us looking for the personal information, but rather the relationships that even existed. They have a very robust volunteer base. So they have like hundreds of people volunteering every year. So that's hundreds of potential contacts. So fortunately we were talking on a call and we were just kind of digging in, and we decided that this would be the greatest untapped resource, would just look into this volunteer list and where those connections lie, because just having those names and those references on these applications, they go much further than you would imagine. So really just tapping into all aspects, whether it's board members, friends of friends on that aspect of it, or volunteers. I think those are untapped resources also.
Yeah, that's no, that's a really good point. And we, again, it's like really, I mean, I find this in my personal life, like sometimes you think about things and you overcomplicate, you just like take a breath and take a step back. We focus a lot on mindset, which is why this recording is a perfect example of like pushing the boundaries of what you're comfortable with and just like stretching. But I think that idea of like, are you making those connections? Are you thinking about it in the simplest form, which I find the easiest analogy is just like treat your relationships in your organization like you would your friendships, because nobody wants, I've said this a million times, like nobody wants to hear from the friend who only reaches out when they need something. And so, and then just kind of like, I think another thing that we've seen that I think is really interesting lately is like breaking down those silos of like the departments within an organization. So like one of our team members, like if you could touch on that story of like catching the thing in the signature and like that whole, I think is another great example of like the silos that exist, that when we break them down, it's like everything just works so much smoother.
Yeah. So one of our clients is celebrating their 40th anniversary, which is quite, that's no small feat. Nonprofits are born every day. So the last 40, that was very exciting. And it was one of those things where we're emailing back and forth, and I had seen it come up a few times and I just meant to click on it. And that's one of those, you just kind of get in your lane. And our awesome team member clicked on this signature YouTube video that our client had. And it was just the most amazing, touching, emotional video that just like rocked us, and we had to share it on our team connection, our team chat, and everyone was just like, that's great. And then we kind of cheered them on for that and just kind of celebrated, and they said, oh, well, we have more information that, well, maybe you'll find this interesting, or oh, we could use this for grant. Like, so there's just this opportunity to really continue to push, like, where we're not, we can work together and really support each other in so many intersectional ways. I think it's the greatest thing about technology now. I find that you leverage it the right way, we're just really enhancing every experience and every interaction with some new share that's really going to take it to the next level. So
yeah, for sure. I love that. So at the time that we were making this evolution from Williams grant writing to 1 degree impact was the time that the rest of the world was also going through, right? Like, deliberately, we decided that while the world flipped on its head and everybody was kind of like, I hate to say it, but like pivoting and, whatever, that was like the timing that we decided to take this opportunity to kind of like restructure, is our client filter the right filter of clients to be working with to get the best success? Are our processes as fine-tuned as possible to be driving the most success for our clients, which we measure, for those listening or wondering, we measure all of our success based on return on investment, from a grants perspective, as well as like how much bandwidth we can free up for our clients so that they can be focusing and investing their time in, all of the necessary things to contribute to grant success, namely relationships, and like internal organizational stuff. So, I would love to hear from you, like over the past 2 years, 2.5 years now, just any like great examples that you can think of our clients who, not just this like surviving, sustaining, like just keeping the wheel, like keeping the wheels on, but like that they've been able to use grants along with other fundraising tactics and other, organizational components to scale their impact versus just like keeping things, running or status quo.
Yeah, one of the clients that comes to mind is one of our clients in Southern California. They have a program also. It's been about 30 years that they've been in existence. And so they've evolved and changed, the pandemic, there's always going to be something. So they've learned to really view things in a strategic way over the years. And the executive director so as the pandemic was happening and they had to close and there were other things going on, they were always seeking ways to improve their programming they would match some of the grants that were available and kind of adjust their programming, because funders are putting things out there that they're willing to fund, but also the client is kind of pushing their own boundaries of what they're able to provide. So actually I can think of 2 examples, and that's in their ability to be strategic and innovative with grants, because they see that on the horizon, this is where the money is going to be for now, and adjusting my program to fit that funding makes sense in this time frame. But then as an additional example, the same client had a very small program that was kind of a pilot program that was just maybe 10 or 20 participants, which is pretty low on a funding scale. The client decided to just kind of leverage and it wasn't a large program that was going to make or break their organization. They really just felt that this program has legs to it, and there's really something here. So, and they were seeing results. They were measuring impact, they were tracking outcomes, and it was just getting a tremendous amount of buzz. And so they sought grants specifically to fund this program, scaled it, and then partnered with a research organization that was able to really collect additional data and write up a big report. And that really added validity to everything that they were doing. And then they're now able to qualify for NIH grants with really large, that will absolutely change like a whole aspect of their nonprofit and who they're able to serve, and really the impact of these participants, because it's really one of those few programs that you can't deny that it's just immediately having an impact. And so those and then they're also going to look to find ways to replicate this program and provide it for other nonprofits doing similar work. So I think just the ability to not only improve their own organization and what they're doing, but then to bring this out nationally would be an amazing opportunity. So just one of those things where seeing the grant opportunity, seeing a program within your organization, and then adjusting and being flexible, I think is really an important aspect of how to leverage grants.
It makes me think of it as like grants as a tool versus a process. You know, like, oh, well, this is how we have to get funding. So so instead of just being in this, like, we look for these opportunities, we write these proposals, we do, we find out if we got the award, even if they build the relationship into that, even if they, upgraded to that. And then if we get the award, we report. This idea of like looking for the opportunities as very strategic tools to build around and then enhance and use them as like lily pads, basically, to, I love that like exponential story. And we've had a number of those, over the years, obviously, but especially as we've kind of like tweaked our processes to help facilitate that thinking, or those connections, or those like identifying or vetting those opportunities of just like, it starts as this small thing, and then it's just like exponential, leaps to identify the next funding to go in 2 years, and not just any 2 years, but the past 2 years from, their physical facility got shut down because of COVID. And so that's chaotic enough, because now you can't directly serve the people, and they don't have their community that they serve is not a community that could just take a computer home and go on Zoom, right? Like late stage dementia, adults with late stage dementia. And so to not only be able to keep your head in a place to stay the course, but then to innovate in that time period is just unbelievable. How do you see like our relationship, or again, like as just kind of a guide for people who are looking of like, if you're working with people internal versus people external, like, outsourcing or kind of bringing on partners to support you in this work. Like, what is that the dynamic of that relationship like in two ways that breeds the most success or that creates the most challenging, I guess, chance of success?
That's a great question. I think I appreciate from our pandemic, we lived that pandemic life of outsourcing or maybe doing everything via Zoom. Everyone's working from home, and our organization had always been virtual, so we had that added advantage of really not missing any beats, so to speak, and supporting our clients as they were struggling with some of this. But I think that this sort of fractional or outsourcing is becoming more normal, is becoming normalized, and there's a trust level that has to be built over time to really prove that we're able to do the job that they need us to do. So I think for one of our clients that we've had also on the West Coast or West Coast, that we've been with them for almost 5 years as well, over 5 years, and they've also been a partner as they pivoted through COVID as well. And there has been a tremendous amount of their openness and mindset of abundance to see our value in more than just one thing. So while we prepare all their grant proposals and write and do budgets and help them prepare the best kind of thing going out the door for funders, she sees the value in what we're doing and repurposes some of that for board presentations and donor appeals. And so they're seeing value across the board in the language that we craft together and how things are presented. So that trust building kind of can come as quickly as I think that the client is open and willing to kind of realize that their team is wearing a million hats. And so some of that can be delegated out, or they can be supported in all the important work that they're doing. And I think that I kind of see this as an analogy of things when it doesn't work. When you're having your audit done, or you're asking your tax advisor to prepare your 990, as an organization, you are going to give them all the information they need that is required from the IRS or whoever to make sure that their ducks are in a row. So as the grant writers, we really do need all of that information, accurate information, to present to the institutional funder. So the more they share, the more the willingness to share. Even maybe it feels uncomfortable. Maybe there's something in there that like don't feel great about. I'm not sure. We're not here to judge. We're just here to support. And so I think having that openness and willingness to just throw everything at us and we can make sense of it, I think that helps start the relationship off on the right foot.
Yeah, that's been one, I don't know, trust building in general has been something that I've been very mindful of in my whole, in life as a whole, of like what creates trust. And I think that, I had heard someone once say, like, trust begets trust. Like, the funny thing about trust is someone has to go first.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so it's like,
I say that to my kids. They don't get it. We're working on it.
they're like, we'll get back to you, Mom. We'll get back to you. Yeah. That's been another interesting thing. That wasn't even on our list of things to talk about, but I do think it's interesting, uniquely, like, I'm about to go through this journey in December. But you've been going through this, and like, what has the last two, I mean, I'm sure this has been discussed in ad nauseum on all sorts of different, formats of conversations and interviews and podcasts and whatever. But like, I don't know, just your perspective on the past 2.5 years, and like, from a personal standpoint of like what it's been like to go through that, and kids being in school and out of school and this and that and whatever. And then also like what that interaction, I think that, I guess it maybe the reason it's coming to me right now is because it is a trust, it has a big trust component to it, in that like the world used to be, you're a human and an adult that sits in a workspace that we're maybe not acknowledging that you have this whole other life around you. And then like overnight it was like, oh wait, you're a whole person with kids and spouses that work in more challenging fields than you do, and a gardener outside who all of a sudden is deciding they're going to like blow the air blower right in the middle of a client call, like all that stuff, a dog running through the room. But
Right.
like, what's that experience been like, and has that like changed our dynamic with clients?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think it's definitely been because, as I mentioned, we've always been virtual in our workspace, and that was just something I was always incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have flexibility and work in my yoga pants. So, however, when the pandemic hit, we all of a sudden became almost more connected to our clients, because this Zoom just kind of took off, and everybody and our clients, a lot of them are traditionally not really interested in engaging that way, but we sort of worked our way into it. And with that came the reality that my kids might run in, and sometimes they thought it was you, so that they would start like dancing, and then it wasn't you. So, but I think that it really did bring us closer. I would say the silver lining of all of it is the comfort level we all have in this medium, and our ability to be vulnerable and be full humans. And a lot of our clients have brought that to us, and we appreciate that, because we know we're not the only thing going on in their life. So just the ability to know what's happening with them, as well as share with what's going on with us. I think a lot of people feel supported and seen where that they weren't before. So, or looking for organizations where they can feel seen. I think that's really important.
Yeah, the whole human like approach has always been one that like for me was always natural. I think probably because I grew up in a family owned and operated business. And I remember when I first moved to New York and worked in advertising, like I treated everyone like it was family owned and operated, and people thought I was like such a weirdo. Like the corner office, like a new, like CEO or someone started, and I was like, no one's talking to him. So I like walked in one day, I was like an assistant. I was like, did someone tell you where the bathrooms are? Like, do you need any help? And everybody was like, what is she doing? And
Love
like,
it.
so that piece of it, I think like being able to bring that back into this, like, we're all just humans, like doing the best we can to, move forward in this world and as like productive and impactful a way as possible, I think has been interesting. And then I also know that I have created probably more headache for you, because I engage with your kids, because I get so excited. I'm like, oh, this will be so fun. And then,
Well, they're turning into tweens when they're like, oh, hey, Jess.
yeah, hey, sorry, we're too busy.
Right.
So one thing that I'm really interested to talk about is this idea of like building momentum. And like, I know that one of the things that we had kind of talked about, like, and we obsess over a little bit, is like, how do we as quickly as possible get to success with our clients, right? Like grants is not, I always say to people that we're talking to that are like, tell me about grants, and they're all excited, like, I need money for this. They're like, it's a long game. It's not a like, if you want fast money, like take a loan, get an investor, and these are my business speak, but like, and you got to give up different things to get that. But like, can you talk a little bit about how like what we've done to build momentum and like into our processes and stuff to like be able to get to success as quickly as possible with our clients?
Yeah, I think that there is a balance. It's really a balance between staying organized and staying focused on the research that we do, sort of assessing where they've applied more before, what open opportunities are out there, what funders are they working towards to turn in from warm to hot opportunities. So having a game plan, setting that up, and kind of staying as consistent as possible as things come up in their world, us helping them stay strategic and focused, and just really keeping it, pushing the pedal to the metal. I say that because it's a challenge. It's a challenge. There's so much going on in these organizations, and they're doing so much good work that just having that laser focus to produce something and get it out the door, because nothing's happening if it's not getting out the door.
Yeah.
But the second part of that is to be able to pivot, because as they're building relationships, so as we're not so locked into our process or our plan that we can't deviate and shift gears or slow down at a certain point because our client is dealing with their 40th year gala, and it's just the biggest, it's their epic thing, that's the biggest thing they've ever done. We're not going to just sit there and beg them to like get edits back on draft 2. But then as soon as they're ready to pump out a bunch of stuff because they met some great funders at these events, and so they're being asked to submit grants and to get to secure those dollars. So I think the ability to keep focused as well as being flexible, and the client kind of always thinking in the background of their head of how am I advancing this program forward? Just kind of always having some sort of eye on it has been the difference for a lot of our clients.
I think that's, if I can say like what you and the team have done, that's like, my dad always said, you can't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. But like walking the walk of that, like structure versus flexibility, I would say is probably one of the biggest things that has come out of the past 2.5 years from us, because like the business that we acquired and like that was, that originated all of this was set up in a very deliberate way to make sure that the trains left the station every month and that everything was in a very specific way, and rightfully so, because it's very hard to be successful in the grant space when you're all over the place of like, 1 month you're submitting something and then you're busy for 3 months and then you go back and the research isn't that, isn't up to date anymore. So like, I understood the reason for it. But you had said to me like in the, and this was again, part of this like productive vulnerability that we, talk about a lot within our business, is like, you're like, I don't know if it works to be that rigid about the way that we do things, because you have a situation where a client has a big gala going on or something happening in their personal life or whatever. And so I think just like you're leading our team in that, like, and then, and we've swayed, right? Like the pendulum swings, unfortunately, and a lot of times, like you see in the way of our world, like the pendulum swings. And so being able to really lead our team and keeping the pendulum, like as, swinging, but like not in an extreme way, because I think in that flexibility is where a lot of our magic has happened over the past 2 years, to go from having some clients who were exponentially successful, some clients who were incrementally successful, and some clients who weren't successful at all, to having almost all of our clients be exponentially successful, was in that space of like keeping enough structure for them and us to be able to move things forward in a strategic, thoughtful, deliberate way, but having enough flexibility to make space for really more opportunity. Like I find that space you guys have created has opened up the door for, well, we found this unique funding thing that we never would have been looking for before, or we waited an extra week or two that we would have counted as a deadline 4 years ago and been like, sorry. Right. And that made a relationship that unlocked a huge funding award or whatever.
Yeah. And it really helps. I mean, the clients that we're working with, we feel very fortunate to have such an open, abundant mindset, and just really just willing to take the go on the journey. They're willing participants. We're not dragging them. They're leading as much as we are. It's a very much of a partnership, which I think really makes the difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you more than you will ever know. There's nobody I would rather be on this journey with than you. I am so grateful that you were willing to do this, because while this is my comfort space, I am aware that it is not everybody's. But I think it's just, your breadth of knowledge in your, history and experience in this industry, as well as leading this team and all the relationships that you have and conversations you have with our clients and our team and our partners just brings so much value to whoever's listening out there in the interwebs. So I am very grateful that you were willing to do this, and I am very excited to see what interesting conversations come out of it. So for those of you who are interested in seeing more, we do our live episodes where you can ask Q&A and kind of be engaged in the conversation the second Tuesday of every month at noon. So follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok. We don't do TikTok dances, but we do put videos up. Not yet. Maybe that's next. Maybe we just unlocked Meg's new TikTok fame. But yeah, follow us everywhere. Please leave questions in, all of the social channels. Meg, if people wanted to get a hold of you specifically to, tap into your breadth of knowledge, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Emailing me at MEGAN, Megan at onedegreeimpact.com. That's probably the quickest way.
Awesome. Or look for you on your viral TikTok videos.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Or LinkedIn. Yeah. No, connect with us. But thank you very much. And thank you all for listening, and see you next time.